Welcome back. Now we're going to be stuffing our apples and finishing them off, adding leaves and buttons and adding shape, all the fun stuff. You'll see me use a stuffing tool throughout this process. I used to sell a lot of these for sale, so I was making a lot so my hands would get fatigued, and I do have hypermobility, so I can bend my fingers in ways they shouldn't be bent. So I do use a stuffing fork. I don't suggest that you have to buy one for the pattern. You don't, especially if you're only making a couple. I wouldn't bother. You could use a chopstick. You could also use scissors, but you have to be really careful. Obviously, you're not stabbing into yourself or the apple with scissors that you slip or cut yourself. So a chopstick or any other blunt, sort of rigid, a pencil, like the other end of a pencil, like the pointy end. You'll see me. Yeah, you could use that. You could use hemostats, which they use for surgeries and stuff, but I can't quite get the hang of that. So I have a stuffing fork I've used for the last 15 years. You'll see me use that in a minute. So you want to just stuff. And then this is the reason, one of the reasons why we interface the apples and use like a 2.5 stitch length. We want a short stitch length and really stable seams, and the interfacing helps with that because it's quite aggressive stuffing, as you'll see. So you just keep stuffing, and yes, it feels like it takes forever, but it doesn't. So keep stuffing. And you'll see me use a stuffing tool fork. Like I said, you don't need this stuffing fork. I can give you the details for it, but you don't necessarily need it. My hands get fatigued easily because of hypermobility, and I use it. I find it helpful for me if I'm making like a batch lot of apples, but generally I'm not. Generally I'm making, these days I'm only making a few at a time. So when I used to sew them for markets, I'd be like making 50 to 100 at once. The other thing you could use is a chopstick, or you could use some other blunt, like pencil or something like that, just to help get the stuffing in there. I just like to get it nice in. Sometimes you find with some stuffings, and this is a synthetic stuffing I'm using made from recycled plastic bottles, and I find with this particular filling, it can get a little resistant once you get to a certain point. Like it kind of has a bounce back. It's really like it's not as forgiving as polyfill. So this stuff's a little bit tough sometimes. So it's sort of I have to wrestle it in there, and then you'll see me stuffing the heck out of it. So if you find your hands get fatigued, yeah, definitely find something like a pencil, or some people use hemostats, so you could use hemostats. Jodie from Rick Rack Sews, she sells them in her store, and she uses them a lot for stuffing. So you could use those. Once you get it stuffed to a certain point, like sort of halfway stuffed, you want to put in the stem. And what I do with the stems, that if I'm making them, is I like take I don't cut it off a stem length, like a short length, because it's hard to get a knot. So say if you've got a spool of stuff you're using for your stems, not the end where you want the stem, and then snip it off after. It just makes it easier. I use a mixture of, and I've gone off screen, sorry about that. I use a mixture of, this here is old kangaroo, I'm sorry, but it is kangaroo leather, and I've had this for about 15 years. This, like, I had a spool of it. No, that's braided wax. If it's got a black centre, then it's, that's the kangaroo. The first one also was waxed, what do you call it? Wax braided cord, and it's got like a black centre. Waxed braided cord, and it's got a black center. So this stuff here, this is the kangaroo leather. Sorry to those who love Skippy. I love Skippy too. But yes, and what you want to do is you'll find here, if your hole's a bit small, because you want to wrangle your knot in, right? So if you're having real hard trouble, you're going to see me use my scissors here. Don't be terrified. Just gently shove it in. So you want to get the knot in there. If you're getting a lot of resistance, then maybe just use up something blunt, even the blunt end of a larger needle, to put it into the space and just create a bit more hole. And see how I squish that then, and it's really like got a lot of bounce. Yeah, you want to keep going a bit longer. So you want to put the stem in at this point so that it's in. I'll keep talking in a minute about the stems again. Once you start getting to like the apple being full, you'll find this in particular, like I said, batting or stuffing I'm using bounces back, so it's a little bit of a wrangle for me. but you'll find you start getting resistance. So what you want to do now at this point is start feeling the apple, and you can feel if there's like little gaps in the batting, in the stuffing. Oh my gosh. So just feel your apple as you're stuffing it, and then if you need to, use your chopstick or some other blunt object, stuffing fork if you have one, hemostats, put it into the apple and just move the stuffing around a bit. You'll see me do that at some point, and try and fill the spaces and get them all nice and smooth. I also do like to break my batting up into bits to help like move it around, and like it helps me maneuver. Sometimes if you stuff one and you get like little pockets of emptiness, so you'll see me like stuffing my thumb down the sides and stuffing it on the inside. That's, yeah, I want to kind of get it as dense as possible. You don't want it so that it doesn't bounce back at all, but you do want it pretty firm, and you'll see, I'll show you how squishable or not squishable my apple is once I start to get to the end. This is for me kind of like the I'm out of practice stuffing apples, I will be able to tell you the truth. I used to stuff a lot of these suckers, and as I was doing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting tired. So I haven't stuffed many apples for a long time, and I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, my thumb gets really sore. So yeah, just keep stuffing, and yeah, you can use, because we've interfaced the fabric and we've used like a 2.5 length stitch, right? And you'll see me aggressively stuffing, stabbing this here, and it's literally because it's not polyfill, it's like a synthetic, which polyfill is, but this is like quite a coarse stuffing. And now I'm using my scissors, so just be really careful if you use scissors like I am here. You could use children's scissors, which are blunter, but just be careful, please don't cut yourself. And yeah, using my thumb, and just from making a lot of these, it's just, I know the feel and how I want it to feel, so I'm probably being a little bit pedantic here with how the feel is. And you see me squishing it, I was like, oh, there's still quite a bit of bounce back, so I just want to get a bit more stuffing in. I know it's kind of, it might seem tedious, but that's kind of just how I make them, and everyone likes the look of them, so I'm like, well, this is how I achieve that look. Okay, so you'll see me feeling this in a minute. You'll see me checking the sides. See how there's like a little dimple there, so I want to try and smooth that out. So it means either there's a little stuffing gap, or there's a little bit, yeah, or a little bunched up bit of stuffing. So then I stick my stuffing fork in. You can use your fingers, whatever stuffing implement you're going to use, and that's how I kind of smooth out that seam. That's all it means. There's just probably a little gap in the stuffing, and I just need to sort of wiggle the stuffing or add a little bit more in there. My solution here is obviously to stuff more stuffing. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And as if you've picked that up, I am voice recording this after I've recorded the video. I find if I record the voiceover whilst I'm working with my hands, I mean, I speak fast now, but I speak a lot faster, so I'm trying to get better at this and not speak so fast. So if I am super fast for you, just slow down the video. See me squeezing it? I'm pretty happy, I think, with that, unless I'm about to put some more stuffing in. Oh, yep, no, last bits. So it's getting to the end for me here. But yeah, so if this video is too fast, turn on closed captions, because I'm speaking Australian, and you can slow me down to 0.75 if that helps. I'm working hard on slowing down my speech. So yeah, just something to keep in mind if my speech is too fast for you, or my Australian is too hard to understand. It's getting pretty close now. He's feeling good. See, I'm squishing, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm happy. Okay, now for this part, I use a crochet thread, and I think I talk about in the pattern. See that needle there? That's about a 3-inch needle. It's probably just a little bit too short. You could use a 3-inch, but it's going to be easier if you use something more like a 4 or a 5 or even bigger length needle. I do find the longer doll needles help. So there's a thread. You can pause that. You want a strong thread that you can pull on. So this is why I use a crochet thread. You want to get your leaves and your buttons, and now you want to fold the corners, the 4 quarters over. So fold them over on top of each other. This takes a little bit of wrangling, not with your thread doubled and knotted at the end. And you need some patience with this part. We're creating the little apple dimples, so you kind of might need to just stab it up and through a few times. This is why a longer needle can help. And yes, there are other ways you could make this apple, but this is the way I like to make it. It's kind of a nod to Zacco, and it's got little dimples, and it's stuffed through the base. So you bring the needle up and back, and the pattern explains all of this, and go through the base. Keeping in mind, you'll see me at some point wrap this thread around my stem, pull it down tight, right? Use your thumb to anchor it, and we take it up and down for each quarter of the apple to create a little, and this is how we're shaping the apple. I find that every apple for me looks slightly different. I do not expect them all to look uniform. It's just the nature of the pattern and the way of making them, and I'm okay with that. So don't be too fussy if your apples look different to each other. So you go pull the dimples and take the needle back down. Now occasionally, if you're using even though we've interfaced, you might get the fabric occasionally that if you put when you go up and back down, if you put that space too close, that you create a hole and it doesn't actually create a dimple. If that's the case, you might have to come up again and go away slightly wider to create a new dimple. You can still keep the apple, you just need to wrangle it a little bit. They're very forgiving, this pattern, so I think that I love the way it looks personally. Obviously I designed it, but it's been around for 16, 17 years now. So keep going. So you do 3/4 like this, up and down. And yeah, this does take a bit of work on your hands. So here we go. I've caught the stem. So just flick your thread off your stem. Okay, pull it. Alrighty. Yeah, look at that. See how nice this shape is? I love that shape. Okay, now we're going to add a button. And I like a 2-hole button because then it's just 2 holes I have to deal with. And we thread the button on, take it up through the bottom, find a space where it's not too tight and knotty, and you'll see me, it's getting a bit tight in here, so yep, there we go, bring that up. And then at the bottom, make sure the thread's not twisted, and get your button in position, put your thumb on it, that's what I do to hold it in position, and sometimes you have to wrangle the bottom a little bit, and that's okay. Give it a pull. You'll see me just trying to get it into shape, and I feel like I've got like a lopsided, it's slightly different on one side, so I do a little bit of stuffing around with these sometimes. Pull it tight, and then we take it back down, and we do, this is probably the yucky part, I would guess, is you do want to come through that button again. So it's obviously a little tricky to come through that hole again. You'll see me stuff around with this a little bit here, and so I'll bring the needle up, and then I'll just sort of pivot my button a little bit sometimes to get it through, and then pull the thread to pull the button tight again, and then yep, pull it. So I do want to do that at least. I want to get 2 goes through the button. And you'll see me just feeling it with my hands and shaping it a little bit. And at this point, I'm going to go back up again, and then we're going to come up off center to attach the leaves. I usually pick 2/4 where I've got a plain fabric, like a solid, and I'm trying to just change the shape a little bit here. So that's what I'm doing at the bottom. So I bring it up just off center, off the seam. I didn't mean point out, but I have a pink bottom there. And thread, and I use one glitter felt leaf because I just love glitter and sparkles. It's not as functional because it's harder to push needles through, or pins. The leaves are the the needle keepers, so that you don't lose your needles in your apple. So put your needles into the leaves, and put pins in the pincushion. Of course you can put pins and needles in the pincushion, but just be mindful that you don't want them to disappear in there. So that's what I do, and then take it back down, and we're near the end. So now you don't want to come through the button, you want to push that button on one side and bring the needle out to the side of under the button. Pull it tight, and check that pull down, check the felt's in the right position. Okay, and my leaves are in a great spot, happy with that. And now you want to create a knot. So I'm left-handed, if you're right-handed, you're going to do it the other way around. You're going to create a loop with your left hand. Take it round. And I usually do this twice, probably because of my tendencies to over-tighten things and knot things. But anyhow, you can do it once if you want, but I just have to do it twice. I can't not. I was only going to show you me doing it once, but I couldn't help myself. And so then after you've done that, you take your thread through the apple, pull it out one of the sides, and gently, carefully cut off close to the apple. Don't cut the apple, just give it a bit of a scratch so the thread goes away, and you've finished an apple. Isn't that amazing? Sometimes I still give them a little bit of a massage and a wiggle around if I'm not happy. So this one I've done one hexagon panel with the Tilda something blue, and then I've done a woven and then 2 of the Tilda something blue prints. And I like to, if I'm displaying them, or gifting them, I like to take the needle like I gift them with and put it through both the felts and then pincushion so the felt leaves sit down. But that's just my little weird proclivity. You don't have to do that. And yeah, see, I'm just giving it a little bit of a massage. I spend a bit of time getting them in the shape I want. I'm going to stuff another apple. This is a Liberty Tana Lawn one I made, and I'm using some, I think it's a broderie, I don't know how to say it. It's basically an embroidered fabrico, cotton fabric I bought with an eyelet print. And it didn't matter that it had holes in it because I was interfacing it, and it doesn't matter if you see the interfacing through because you can barely see it. So I'm just going to stuff this one, and I'll probably speed this up and not talk as much over this one. So if you want to skip it, you can. I'll add some annotations in the video so you can skip through some of this if you want. So I'm going to speed this part up. Okay, I'm going to slow it down again. I've never actually used a 4-hole button before, but I wanted to try out these Liberty Tana lawn buttons that I had. So I'm just going to play this at the usual speed, and you can see me experiencing this for the first time. I decided to do a cross in the button across the base. I reckon that would probably sit better. I don't know. That's what I tried to do. And this will be a little bit fussy. It's actually a metal button, which is interesting. So you see me pushing it up to see where the hole is and then doing a little bit of jiggle. Get it in place. Yep, and then pulling the thread tight before I pull it again. Okay, this is the first time I've sewn a hexagon apple with all 4 panels as hexagons. I did notice a difference, like it felt much thicker and heavier to stuff, obviously because you've got a bunch more seams in there, and you've got interfacing on any of them anyhow. But yeah, probably the extra fabric from the seams. So um, yeah, and it made the shape slightly different, which is okay. Just that's what it does. So previously I'd made a 3-panel one with a 4 just plain fabric. I don't know if I'd make another 4-panel one. I think it's cute, but I don't love it. It's personal preference. It's a lot. I have used very bright fabrics by Heather Ross, which I love. But yeah, I'd probably do either a 1-panel with hexagons or a 2 or a 3 maximum, I think. Yeah, the Tilda ones I've made, I've done single panel, and I think I'll do that with I'm not sure what I'll do with the Liberty ones. I might try an all 4 or an all 3 one. But I'll show you stuffing this anyhow and finishing this off. You can always skip it. I'll add in chapters. My leather thonging, making the knot, give it a good pull and make it tight. I like to snip the top end on an angle, shove it in the hole. This one could be a tight hole, so I'm just gonna shove it in 12. I do the 12 just to sort of like get the knot in there and make sure it's spun around and it's not caught on anything and it's nice and embedded. This one's giving me a little bit of hassle, so I'm just gonna have to, and I don't mind if there's a tight knot fit, to be honest with you. A reminder that these aren't children's toys, so obviously the stem and the leaves aren't glued or attached. Even the button's not safe, so they're definitely not children's toys for little talkers. So just please be careful of that. I'd hate to hear someone's child hurt themselves by playing with one of these. Once your child's old enough to understand, then that's up to you. I mean, it's up to you anyhow. But yeah, just please be mindful of that. They're not a toy. Yeah. Okay, full disclosure for this part, I'm super frustrated because I wanted you to see me sewing the dimples on this one, which is like obviously heavier from all the EPP. And then I had actually pressed stop and not record or pause, and so I missed it except for this last part. So I'm sorry about that. But you're able to see that it takes a little bit of effort to get through because obviously there's so many seams. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just letting you know that it is like a bit stiffer. So just take care, don't stab yourself, and just take care when sewing if you're doing a hexagon one. Yeah, you can see my effort for me to push it through. I almost went to grab my needle puller, but I didn't manage to get it through without it, so that's okay. So just be mindful that, yeah, it'll take a bit of effort to get through an apple with all those seams. I don't remember it was the first time I made one, but maybe it was that long ago. I can't remember when I actually made that one in the background there, which was 3 hexagon panels. And we're just going to knot off. And yeah, it's much more firmer, denser apple, which is not a bad thing. It's just, yeah, it's a little bit more effort to sew through. That's all. And so we came up to the end of finishing this apple and finishing this video series for finishing and making the apples. If you have any questions, you get an email from me. You can reply to that. I hope you enjoy making these. I can't wait to see your apples.